So now we are on the practical part of the MCP setup, configuration, and writing an application. So as you remember, there are three participants in MCP flow. So MCP provider, then MCP server, and then an MCP client. Usually our MCP client is our IDE like VS Code or IntelliJ, Copilot, or whichever. For MCP server is some software which is written based on the MCP protocol by either MCP providers. Let's say for Jira and Confluence, Atlassian is done it themselves. And for example, for GitHub and for Postgres, you can find lots of other different implementations. So the question I had as a developer, which possible MCP servers we can use day to day, and that demo would be kind of very kind of beneficial if it shows up one or two things which we touch daily. So yes, they are Jira, Confluence, Snowflake, AWS, Grafana, and then a couple more, I would say. Mirror, I would say, and others. So here I just merged GitHub with Jira. What I mean by that is I have the Jira MCP server up. So Jira MCP server is literally a basic Docker image. What it has is a Jira environment where I specified my username and API token key. And then this is the image, and then it tells it, expose it through the port 9000. So as long as we start the Docker image, so our MCP server is up, and all we need is to go for MCP client is just to say it, hey, set me up my client through these paths in the server. So here we are, name, transport, and the URL. So when we save it, as you can see, we might see multiple things it's asking us. These are the items which are or actions provided by the API. Let's say for Jira, the MCP server provides get user profile, get issue, search fields, get transitions, and etc. actions, right? And then our client asks what we want to do by default. Ask or just allow the client to run the comments. This is a Jira. Similarly for the GitHub, as you can see, I couldn't find, like, I spent quite a bit of time to find HTTP protocol-based MCP servers, ideally, but it was quite of a challenge. They sometimes glitchy or failing. It was same for Postgres and for the GitHub. So eventually I settled for stdio. So interesting thing here is that in stdio we don't run any Docker images, but in the settings we say it that you run the server yourself through the Docker command, and this is the command parameters arguments, and then I give it my GitHub personal access token, and then I tell it which image to run. So literally we're saying the client to run the server and then connect to our MCP GitHub provider. It is same for there you can see the menus, like what we can do with GitHub: add issue comment, add sub issue, create repository, create issue, get commit, get issue comments, and all of those things which we do daily. And same is the default action example, right? So similarly for GitHub, we can set up Postgres and whichever, as you can see, they all are here. The challenges with Postgres were they mostly were read-only. No one wants to have the database being that dynamically manipulated. That was the interesting part. But today we're focusing only on Jira and GitHub. So I switch back to my charts. As you can see, I'm asking it, hey, how many repositories do I have in my GitHub? As you can see, it's executing text and contact. There's the get me request, and then it gives the answer. I do believe I start with Jira first. So how many tickets I have open on my Jira board. This is the JQL. It sends in the request and it says none. Then I say, okay, how many Jira tickets I have in the KN project, which is I created on my Jira board. And then as you can see, it says calls the Jira get project issues API. with the project key and with the limit, and here is the answer. So literally you can ask it any question about your Jira board, create a ticket, comment the ticket, what the status is, and anything you want. Now I switched to GitHub. I was asking it questions like, okay, you know about my GitHub? It says yes, you've got 25 public repositories. And similarly, you can create a repository, check your latest commit, your pull request, and everything. And all you need is just to issue a comment in your CLI. So now this is where the practical part is. All I did is I asked it to create a KAN project ticket in the Jira board with the goal and the description to write an app which downloads the latest rates from the XA app and shows it in the UI. After that, after that, VS Code is requested to write the ticket for the MCP. When I asked it to create a repository for it, then check it out, and write the code in it, and then commit it and push it, and then let me know how can I run my app. So here how it started. It issued the Jira create issue. As you can see, it put the description itself, then it created the repository. Now it's talking to GitHub now, then it's cloning it locally, then it's creating the React app. There's quite a bunch of the files. This is the commit part. As you can see, it can get quite long. Then I'm pushing all the changes, and here is the report. It's created the KN7 ticket repository, and here is your React app. Here is how can you start it. So we can just start it, have a look at it. Here we are. It's running well, and even in the network we can see that it's issuing the network requests. As you can see, for example, we do Euro. Yeah, it's all responsive, all neat and nice. So all beautiful. But when I checked the ticket, I didn't notice a comment, right? So it forgot to comment about it. And of course I said it, please, can you also put a comment about what did you do? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So here's a Jira comment. And as we can see, here is a nice and neat comment about what's done. And in our repository, of course, what we can see is, yeah, here's our repository, which has been committed, which has been containing all our files in README descriptions and everything. So this is like a basic application of MCP in the life of developer through GitHub and Jira examples. Thank you for your attention.